In a presidential-level announcement that has left political observers and international analysts stunned, the world watched as Guyana took center stage in a rapidly evolving political drama. The gravity of the moment was unmistakable, with the eyes of the region fixed on the unfolding events. For many, this was a turning point, an unexpected assertion of national will from a country often overlooked on the world stage. The anticipation in the air was palpable, as speculation swirled about what this bold move could mean for Guyana's future and its relationships with powerful nations. For decades, Guyana has been a nation that, while rich in culture and natural resources, has often found itself overshadowed by its larger neighbors and the global superpowers that shape international policy. Yet, in this moment, the country seized the spotlight, commanding the attention of not only its own citizens but also leaders and diplomats from across the globe. The announcement was not just a routine political statement, it was a declaration that Guyana would no longer be content to play a passive role in the affairs that affect its destiny. As the world tuned in, the atmosphere in Georgetown was electric. News outlets scrambled to provide live coverage, analysts debated the possible ramifications, and social media platforms lit up with commentary and speculation. The sense of history in the making was undeniable. For the first time in recent memory, Guyana was not simply reacting to the decisions of others, it was setting the agenda, forcing the world to take notice and respond. The significance of this moment cannot be overstated. In a region where smaller nations often struggle to have their voices heard, Guyana's boldness sent a clear signal. The era of quiet acquiescence was over. The country was ready to assert its sovereignty, to make decisions based on its own interests and values, and to challenge the status quo when necessary. This was a new chapter, not just for Guyana, but for the entire Caribbean and South American region. As the announcement unfolded, the world's attention was riveted. What would this mean for Guyana's alliances, its economic future, and its role in international organizations? Would other nations follow its lead, or would Guyana face isolation and backlash? These questions hung in the air, unanswered but urgent, as the country stepped boldly into the unknown. Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips has just made a bold and unprecedented sovereign declaration that directly confronts and openly countermands the Trump administration's controversial policies, signaling a new era of assertiveness for the nation on the global stage. This declaration, delivered with unwavering confidence, marks a significant departure from previous diplomatic approaches. It is a clear message that Guyana intends to chart its own course, regardless of external pressures or expectations. Prime Minister Phillips, standing before a packed room of journalists and dignitaries, spoke with a clarity and conviction that left no room for doubt. His words echoed through the halls of government and across the airwaves, resonating with a population eager for change, but wary of the risks. For years, Guyana's foreign policy had been characterized by caution and compromise, often shaped by the interests of more powerful allies. Today, that paradigm was shattered. The Prime Minister's declaration was not merely symbolic. It included concrete policy shifts, a reassertion of Guyana's rights over its natural resources, and a call for a new framework of international cooperation, one that respected the sovereignty and aspirations of smaller nations. In doing so, Phillips positioned Guyana as a leader among its peers, willing to take risks in pursuit of a more just and equitable global order. The response from the international community was immediate. Some praised Guyana's courage, seeing it as a necessary corrective to years of imbalance and neglect. Others warned of potential consequences, including economic retaliation or diplomatic isolation. Yet, for many in Guyana, the message was clear: their country would no longer be dictated to by foreign powers. The era of deference was over, replaced by a newfound sense of pride and determination. This moment was the culmination of months of internal debate and public discourse. Civil society groups, business leaders, and ordinary citizens had all played a role in shaping the government's new direction. The declaration was not just the vision of one leader, but the product of a national conversation about identity, sovereignty, and the future. As the Prime Minister concluded his remarks, the room erupted in applause. Outside, however, the mood was far more complex. The reaction from the Guyanese people has been one of immediate, passionate, and furious backlash. Across Georgetown, crowds have gathered, voices raised in protest and disbelief, as citizens grapple with the implications of this historic and defiant move by their government. Many are questioning what this means for their daily lives, their economy, and their place in the world. The streets are alive with debate, uncertainty, and a sense that Guyana has entered uncharted territory. In the hours following the announcement, the capital city became a stage for public expression. Protesters, waving Guyanese flags and chanting slogans, filled the main squares and thoroughfares. Some decried the government's decision as reckless, fearing that it would jeopardize vital trade relationships and threaten the fragile economic gains of recent years. Others, however, saw the move as a long overdue assertion of national dignity, a necessary stand against foreign interference. The debates spilled into homes, workplaces, and marketplaces. Radio call-in shows buzzed with heated arguments, while social media became a battleground of competing narratives. For many, the uncertainty was deeply unsettling. Would international investors pull out? Would aid and development projects be suspended? How would the government protect ordinary citizens from the fallout of its bold stance? Yet, amid the anxiety and anger, there was also a sense of possibility. Some young people, inspired by the Prime Minister's words, spoke of a new era of self-reliance and innovation. Community leaders called for unity and resilience, urging citizens to come together in support of the nation's sovereignty. As night fell over Georgetown, the city remained restless. The government called for calm and dialogue, promising to listen to the concerns of the people and to work tirelessly to safeguard the nation's interests. The coming days would be critical as Guyana navigated the challenges and opportunities of its new path. What happens next is uncertain, but one thing is clear: Guyana has made its choice, and the world is watching. The country stands at a crossroads, its future unwritten, its people determined to shape their own destiny, no matter the cost. Here is the stunning announcement. With the authority of the presidency, Prime Minister Phillips announced the immediate creation of a Guyanese sovereign travel and dignity zone. First, he suspended all visa-free transit and simplified visa processes for all United States diplomats, officials, and military personnel. They must now apply for standard visas with the same rigor, fees, and potential for denial as Guyanese citizens face in the United States. Second, and most explosively, the government made a historic announcement that would reverberate far beyond Guyana's borders: a national referendum to amend the Constitution, proposing the inclusion of a right to diplomatic reciprocity. This bold and unprecedented move was not just a matter of domestic policy. It was a calculated response to the simmering diplomatic tensions between Guyana and the United States, tensions that had been escalating over issues of visa restrictions, trade negotiations, and mutual respect on the international stage. The government's decision to put this issue directly to the people was a powerful statement, signaling both a commitment to democratic principles and a willingness to stand up for national dignity. For many Guyanese, the announcement was electrifying. It was the first time in the nation's history that such a fundamental aspect of foreign policy would be decided not just by politicians behind closed doors, but by the citizens themselves, through a direct vote. The streets of Georgetown buzzed with conversation as people debated the merits and risks of enshrining reciprocity into the highest law of the land. Some saw it as a necessary assertion of sovereignty, a way to ensure that Guyana would never again be treated as a lesser partner in international affairs. Others worried about the potential consequences. Would this provoke further retaliation from the United States, or complicate the lives of Guyanese families with ties abroad? The government, for its part, framed the referendum as a matter of principle. By proposing to amend the Constitution, they aim to send a clear and unmistakable message to the world. Guyana values fairness, mutual respect, and equality in its dealings with other nations. The right to diplomatic reciprocity would not only empower the people to have a direct say in shaping the country's foreign policy, but also serve as a safeguard against unilateral actions by more powerful countries. It was, in essence, a call for a new era of balanced diplomacy, one in which Guyana's voice would be heard and its interests protected. If passed, this amendment would have far-reaching implications. It would legally require the government to mirror any future United States visa restriction on Guyanese citizens with an identical restriction on United States citizens, in perpetuity. This means that if the U.S. were to impose new visa requirements or limitations on Guyanese travelers, Guyana would be constitutionally obligated to respond in kind, ensuring that its citizens are treated with the same respect and consideration as those from more powerful nations. The proposed amendment was carefully crafted to protect the rights and dignity of Guyanese citizens, ensuring that their interests are safeguarded and that the nation maintains a balanced, assertive diplomatic stance on the world stage. Legal scholars and political analysts quickly weighed in, noting that such a constitutional provision would be unique in the region and perhaps even globally. it would set a precedent for small nations asserting their rights in the face of larger powers, and could inspire similar movements elsewhere. The government emphasized that the amendment was not about antagonism, but about establishing a framework for fairness and mutual accountability. By enshrining reciprocity in the Constitution, Guyana would be taking a stand for the principle that all nations, regardless of size or influence, deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. As the date of the referendum approached, the nation found itself at a crossroads. The outcome would not only shape the future of Guyana's foreign policy, but also send a powerful message to the world about the country's values and its determination to chart its own course in international affairs. Why are Guyanese furious? The answer goes deeper than just a single announcement. Across the country, people are expressing outrage, frustration, and a sense of betrayal. Social media is buzzing, and the streets are filled with heated conversations about what this really means for ordinary families. For many, it's not just about policy, it's about dignity, respect, and the right to be heard. The anger is palpable, echoing through neighborhoods, workplaces, and even in the quiet moments at home. But to truly understand the depth of this anger, we need to look beyond the headlines and into the daily lives of Guyanese citizens. For years, many have felt that their voices are drowned out by the noise of political maneuvering, that their concerns are brushed aside in favor of grand strategies and diplomatic posturing. The latest announcement is just the spark that ignited a firestorm of emotions that have been simmering for a long time. In the markets of Georgetown, vendors talk about how their livelihoods are threatened. In rural villages, families gather around radios, trying to make sense of what the future holds. Young people, who once dreamed of studying or working abroad, now wonder if those dreams are slipping away. The sense of uncertainty is everywhere, and it's not just about travel restrictions or diplomatic disputes, it's about a growing fear that ordinary people are being sacrificed for political gain. The outrage is not limited to any one group, it cuts across age, class, and background. Elders remember past struggles for independence and dignity, and they see echoes of those battles in today's events. Parents worry about their children's futures, and students debate what this means for their education and opportunities. Even those who have never left Guyana feel the sting of being treated as pawns in a game they never agreed to play. The announcement frames this bold move not as a victory for the people, but as a calculated maneuver in a much larger political game. For many, it feels like their voices are being ignored. The government's message, delivered with diplomatic language, seems distant from the daily struggles of the people it affects. Instead of reassurance, it brings uncertainty and a growing sense of alienation. As the news spreads, people gather in homes and public spaces, watching government officials speak on television. The words are carefully chosen, the tone measured, but the message is clear. This is about strategy, not about people. The government insists that it is acting in the nation's best interest, but for many, these reassurances ring hollow. The gap between the official narrative and the lived reality of ordinary citizens grows wider with every statement. In the age of instant communication, reactions are swift and unfiltered. Social media platforms become battlegrounds for debate, with hashtags trending and videos of protests going viral. People share their stories, their fears, and their anger, connecting with others who feel just as powerless. The sense of community is strong, but so is the frustration at being left out of the decision-making process. Instead of celebrating progress, citizens see their lives being used as leverage, a necessary political counterpunch rather than a step forward for the nation. The halls of power are filled with debate, but outside, the public feels sidelined, their hopes and dreams reduced to mere talking points in a diplomatic standoff. Inside government buildings, politicians argue over strategy, weighing the risks and rewards of each move. They speak of sovereignty, national pride, and the need to stand firm in the face of external pressure. But outside those walls, the mood is very different. People feel that their lives are being negotiated away, that their futures are being used as bargaining chips in a game they never chose to play. The disconnect between leaders and citizens is stark. While officials focus on the big picture, ordinary people are left to deal with the consequences. The sense of being used, of being pawns in a larger game, grows stronger with every passing day. For many, this is not just a political issue, it's a deeply personal one, touching every aspect of their lives. Many are deeply upset that their travel rights, their ability to visit loved ones, and their family connections are suddenly at risk, all for the sake of political bargaining. The pain is personal, grandparents separated from grandchildren, students unsure if they can return to school abroad, families left in limbo. Consider the stories behind the headlines. A grandmother who has waited years to see her grandchildren, now unsure if she'll ever hold them again. A student who worked tirelessly to earn a scholarship, now facing the possibility of losing everything. A family split between two countries, suddenly unable to reunite because of decisions made in distant offices. These are not abstract problems. They are real, human stories of loss, longing, and uncertainty. The emotional toll is immense. People speak of sleepless nights, of constant worry, of feeling powerless in the face of forces beyond their control. Community leaders try to offer support, but even they admit that the situation is unprecedented. The sense of injustice is overwhelming, and it's made worse by the knowledge that these sacrifices are being made for reasons that have little to do with the lives of ordinary people. These personal freedoms have become nothing more than a bargaining chip, traded back and forth by those in power, while ordinary people pay the price. The uncertainty is overwhelming, and the sense of injustice grows with every passing day. At embassies and airports, the impact is visible. Lines grow longer, and the air is thick with anxiety. People clutch their passports, hoping for answers, but finding only more questions. The process of applying for visas or renewing documents becomes fraught with tension, as rumors swirl and official guidance changes by the hour. For many, the simple act of planning a trip or visiting family has become a source of stress and fear. The symbolism of passports and documents is not lost on anyone. These are more than just pieces of paper. They represent freedom, opportunity, and connection. To see them reduced to bargaining chips is a bitter pill to swallow. The sense of being trapped, of having one's fate decided by others, is a heavy burden to bear. In this high-stakes diplomatic feud, it's the everyday citizens who feel like pawns, caught in the crossfire of decisions made far above their heads. Their futures hang in the balance, shaped by forces they cannot control, as they wait and hope for a resolution that puts people before politics. As diplomats meet behind closed doors, the stakes could not be higher for those outside. Every statement, every negotiation, every delay has real consequences for real people. The sense of waiting, of being suspended in uncertainty, is almost unbearable. People check the news constantly, hoping for a breakthrough, for some sign that their voices are being heard. Yet amid the frustration and fear, there is also resilience. Guyanese communities have faced hardship before, and they draw strength from one another. Neighbors support each other, sharing information and offering comfort. Activists organize rallies and petitions, determined to make their voices heard. There is a growing movement to demand accountability, to insist that people must come before politics. The question remains, will those in power listen? Will they recognize the human cost of their decisions, or will they continue to treat ordinary citizens as expendable pieces in a larger game? For now, the answer is uncertain. But one thing is clear. The people of Guyana are watching, waiting, and refusing to be silent. Their message is simple but powerful. We are not pawns. We are people, and our lives matter. As the diplomatic standoff continues, the world is watching too. The outcome will not only shape the future of Guyana, but will send a message about whose interests truly matter in the halls of power. For the families waiting for news, for the students hoping to pursue their dreams, and for the communities determined to stand together, the hope is that justice, compassion, and common sense will prevail. Until then, the struggle continues, not just in the corridors of government, but in the hearts and minds of every Guyanese citizen who refuses to be reduced to a bargaining chip. The fight for dignity, respect, and the right to be heard is far from over, and as long as people stand together, their voices will echo far beyond the borders of Guyana, demanding a future where people are never again treated as pawns. They see it as the government engaging in a tit-for-tat that traps ordinary people in the middle, rather than fighting to remove the unfair United States restrictions altogether. The announcement stuns Trump because it demonstrates that a small nation will not just absorb punitive policies, it will institutionalize a mechanism to shoot back automatically, forever changing the diplomatic calculus. It transforms Guyana from a target into a sovereign mirror. To understand the full impact of this historic, provocative announcement and the complex fury it has sparked at home and abroad, you need the most current analysis. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our essential guides and updates.